And so the family of Trevor and the family of Dark got together, and the future for Roderick's workshop started to look a lot more brighter and clearer. Everything, especially for the young new pair, was everything they could have hoped for. A person that they can count on and be sure that they are bringing their best in. The Tuesday morning began as it should. Everyone woke up as normally as they would, and they also had their usual routines in check. Lucia woke up at 6:30 a.m. while Roderick had already left for work. Some expectations could have been here and there. Lucia's own mornings were usually very calm and slow. Make fresh breakfast, get some time for school, and walk about 5 kilometers to the school itself. So were also today's routines. Lucia made herself porridge and white bread with some foie gras and meat. After the breakfast, Lucia took her backpack and took all the necessary books for the day and her jacket for the cold day. Despite Lucia's affection and feelings towards Theodore, the two were quite different. Lucia was a lot more open for her feelings and was usually very pleased about her school, and she loved learning new things there. Theodore was a lot more insecure and suppressed about his feelings, and many times he doesn't care what he does as long as it feels like it's part of his duty and challenging enough. He does it no matter what it was, as long as it fulfills his feeling of duty. Lucia cared that she learned something, and Theodore more and more about that he can prove himself, that he indeed is capable for everything. Also, Lucia's morning were a lot calmer and slower. She woke up noticeably later and started her trip to the school at the last possible minutes. Also, a clear-cut difference between the two were how they felt about themselves with each other, despite their last meaning. Lucia felt joy, relief and safety around her new partner. Despite all the previous events, she couldn't help but feel a bit worried over Theodore's physical and mental health. Theodore, on the other hand, despite his obvious liking of Lucia, felt anxiety and pressure. Whether it was something that had to be struck into his head, or the fact that he dared to be in a relationship with someone significantly richer and wealthier than his entire family. Every single time he tried to think and why he even felt that way, it all started to get apathic. The man's big weakness. Despite her worries, Lucia was still generally optimistic about things around her. Sure, we will get him into find peace, she thought. She had no hurry to anywhere because her school began at 8 because her school began at 8 a.m. and she was already prepared at 7 a.m. Despite the time gap, the stroll was still very long and the roads weren't in the best conditioning during winter time, so she had to leave already pretty much by now. Claw Lake located to the northern side of Lucia's home village, so she could have passed through the Trevor's household along the way. Perhaps she could have stopped to say hello. No, unfortunately. She didn't know where Theodore lived, and so she let that slide and kept walking towards school. Claw Lake was very compact and a small city by its size, but the life there was still very social and active. Wealth for the towns was produced by water power, fishing and industrial manufacturing. Being small by its size, everything you can really think about the towns or cities were under just 1/2 kilometer away from you. And if you happen to be in the middle of the town itself. Despite Claw Lake's immense success as a town, it also expanded towards north about 50. Despite Claw Lake's immense success as a town, It also expanded towards north about 15 kilometers. That area of land was full of rivers and woodlands owned by the locals. Lucia's college she had started a year ago was built to the northern side of the Claw Lakes town, so she walked every week past the town's important points of interest, specifically the marketplace. It was a large open spot, which could have been an agricultural exhibition of its own sorts. Every single form of rural livelihoods had its own place from there. To every single tool, to every single machine, to every single part of a machine, from every single company you could have just imagined. Lucia and Roderick had been there many times to buy themselves all the rest that could not have been produced in their fields. They also went the most active hunters, whether because the lack of time or interest. Their time, home village also didn't have any lakes or rivers that they could have been considered a reliable source of fish. Lucia herself bought a new silk and strings for herself if her storages was running low. When Lucia saw the handwork block from the marketplace, she immediately remembered her father's idea she was presented. It wasn't sure could it work because most of the work around wood and carpentry in Claw Lake almost always have been connected to boats one way or another. This didn't mean they could have been any help, but to Lucia, the situation sounded a bit tricky and uncertain. Worries aside, she got into her school, and it was time for her day's first subject. Lucia's day was her school's longest, consisting of mathematics, physics, history, geography, and after that 2 hours of her optional subject, handwork. Her day was not that special from the usual college student's life, but this time she was seeing some changes in herself. She didn't lament out loud when something felt harder than usual for her, and her social life just was starting to get more and more adult-centered. Her bodies, let's just say, weren't the same anymore for her. After some time spent with Roderick and Theodore, Lucia found herself being way more excited about the idea of speaking to her teachers, which was that rare, but it had certainly amplified in her head. Lucia throughout the day was living her usual school life, but this time there was something she almost predicted. Whenever she was with her friends, it started to feel distant because she didn't really find casual joking around and funny anymore. It was more and more like amusing or slightly frustrating. Disrespecting teachers, spreading rumors, and pretty much everything you could just come up with felt empty activities without a reason. Lucia knew what was in her head and what it was. She didn't yet know how to properly phrase the idea in her head, though. During the last lesson in Lucia's day, she thought that she can now ask the question that puzzled her head from this morning. The lesson was about to end and students were already ready to leave. But Lucia wanted to ask something from her teacher, Mistress Rusa Spikes. This may not be the question to be asked here, but do you, Mr. Spikes, believe that both workers and carpenters can cooperate with each other, or are their professions really all that different? No, they aren't. Oh, where do I know? All I know under my profession, you young lady, is that they both work with wood and try to use it to make the practical and aesthetic design, just like we do. However, if I am to be trusted in your question scenario, working with both has larger emphasis on the surface treatment and bending the wood. That is all I know. Thank you. Mr. Spikes. Why, you young lady, ask that from me? Have you wondered of buying yourself a boat, or has your father, what was his name again? Roderick Dark, yes. Has he planned on making boat for you or what? No, Mr. Spikes. Well, what is it then, young lady? He apparently has plans to form a co-working deal with boatmakers here. That is all I know now. Lucia replied back and started to prepare her departure. And so her school day was over. Lucia walked back to her home and started to prepare a meal for herself and when her father would arrive. Not long in her home, completely alone, Lucia started to feel like she missed someone. This was not usual for her. Lucia always thought that missing someone is not relevant or necessary because you can always contact them one way or another. This wasn't even anything usual feelings of Miss Dark. It felt like excitement and sorrow at the same time. She couldn't describe it properly, but something was off. Then she thought about Theodore, and her heart skipped a beat. Is he okay? When he'll be here? What he'd bring us next time? How he feels about himself? All those questions began to call up in Lucia's mind until she decided to try and call to him. Bit dumb she felt for herself when she remembered that they didn't even have the Trevor's phone number. So then she thought to do some other things during the month's first day. Go and visit the workshop for once again. To fulfill the idea, she had to wait for tomorrow. Roderick and Lucia didn't have any future changing discussions today neither. Mornings repeated themselves and everything went just as people expected it to go forward. One thing Lucia realized about her was that Roderick was able to slightly reduce the feeling of miss she had. While Lucia's father was around yesterday, she was able to forget her unfortunate feelings for a while. But now in the morning, once again alone, she felt only together with herself. Without nowhere to concentrate her attention, her feelings started to emerge on the surface, and Theodore with them. Lucia managed to get rid of these unfortunate feelings from her head with the usual positive thinking. Also, she came up with something about Claw Lake's marketplace when she walked past by it. What if she'd bring Theodore with her? It could especially be important for the boy who has not been there before. Theodore's mother Elvira had been in the marketplace many times, but Theodore had never. He has usually been hunting, loading up new sets of ammo, or doing something else at the moment. The only few exceptions when Theodore was the one who bought something to the house, it was usually components for new cartridges and ammunition, or something else that was brought inside the village. Back when Simon was still alive, before the accident, he always kept telling how bad fit Theodore was outside their home. Also, Simon himself didn't see any point to try and buy goods outside of their home village, at least until the urbanization started to affect the world around him. Even when he finally started to understand the profits and advantages of neighboring cities, he never admitted anything to public. That is why Theodore had not ever even seen the world outside of his home village. Simon's criticism and despises of himself and the urbanization in general were still stuck deep in his subconsciousness. Elvira didn't care any of them, and she was more open-minded for changes. And again, she was the one who visited there the most, and even brought a fraction of the Trevor's foods from there. Theodore was in his base shed once again, this time cleaning it up and cutting all the corpses that were there to create more room for new game to be hanged. Knife was built in Theodore's big and strong hands. Knife was like built in Theodore's big and strong hands, and he learned many secrets and techniques for the job. Cleaning all the blood, fat, and all the other stains was another story. All Theodore had was a simple water hose, which was always during the wintertime frozen and stuck. Even when it could have worked, the water was at its warmest, as warm as a human hand. So really it didn't help at all trying to get rid of the fat stains. The best he had was a simple iron brush, turpentine and steel wool. Because of the very insufficient cleaning methods and lack of proper resources, it took 3 hours to clean up the small base shed. Theodore had, and he was tired and consumed by the work he had done. Tomorrow he could go hunt again. After his short gap, let's just say that. But not today anymore. Theodore went back to his home, and he was greeted with Evie's ever so bitter and bit jealous greetings. Evie kept spilling the same milk again and again. She always complained about her weak body and how Theodore does not know how to help her. Theodore always had forgotten how he only takes care of everyone else, and he always tries to impress everyone around him without a second thought. This time though, things were different. Theodore had found himself someone he cared about more than anything else he had, and Evie's constant mocking of them finally reached the breaking point. Theodore hit the dining room's table with his large fist and finally tried to bring an end to the tensions Elvira just kept feeding and feeding. I've had enough! What is it that you won't even consider everything I have done to us? What is it? And when I, in your words, only take care of everyone else around me, I still bring money to us. I'm not going to talk about the same thing anymore. Keep rolling the same words in your mouth. I'm not going to respond to them anymore. Theodore lashed at his mother. After those words were said, Elvira started to get somber and sadder, until she started sobbing and tearing. I know. I know. It just that you. It is just that you are a 15-year-old boy, not even old enough to drink, and you have to manage a household all by yourself. Simon only yelled at you when something didn't go as wanted, and I'm not capable enough to teach you anything. You are a child in a world way before your time. Ever since you've been born, your life has been just performing and performing with no time to breathe in between. No time to slow down and reflect a little bit. Just like Simon. When I have said all these nasty things about your work, I have just been jealous of their life. Their children especially. They have time to be children. They play with pine cows while their parents do the hardest work for the farm. You were not gifted with such luxury. Especially the fact that my son serves the same people who couldn't bring their children a childhood where they had at least a few years of peace, until they gradually become the owners of their own land. Compared to you, all about the performance and nothing else. I even wanted to try and lighten your burden a bit, but I see that I'm no use anymore. It all feels so desperate. As Elvira said those words, She collapsed on the table crying. Theodore could not believe the things he heard from his mother, and as he kept clicking the pieces together, he felt sorrow as well. But then he decided to gather himself up and give his mother the best comfort and solution he could give. He took the table, placed next to his mother, and sat next to her. Now that you finally managed to clean the air between us, we can finally open up properly, don't you think? My life has been reforming, then what? We are still alive, and we have a farm to take care of. That is all I care. Theodore said back to Elvira, and she raised her head back and looked at her son. She replied back, "Do you really think that is okay? I won't believe that is just okay." Her eyes widened and her sound raised a bit after she said that. Theodore simply implied back, "What else we have?" Evie was about to collapse again until she realized that it's no use. She couldn't help it, and no one else seemingly wanted to. Theodore let his mother to be and tried to come up with something that cheer Evie up. So then he remembered someone who could share a happy saying. He decided to pick up the house's phone and call to the ducks. Theodore waited for a while, and his call was picked up. Yes, hello, Roderick Duck speaking. Yes, hello, Miss Duck. Your apprentice Theodore Trevor here. Do you have time to speak for a while? I do. Theodore asked from his master through the phone lines and kept going. Mr. Duck, do you have a testament? I believe that I might have found one worthy witness from my house. Hold it! Ah, there it is. Good. What if we'd speak more about this testament in the workshop tomorrow? Do you have anything else right now in your mind, Mr. Trevor? I'll gladly respond. No, not anymore. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. Roderick was quickly interrupted by his daughter. Wait, is it Theodore in the phone? I have something in my mind right now that I'd like to talk about, Lucia said, and Roderick gave the phone to her. Hey Theodore, where did you know that I was able to talk with you? Or is the feeling mutual? She asked a bit playfully from Theodore, but the boy tried to reply back. I didn't know about it. I meant to call Roderick, but did you want to talk about something? Yes, I'd love to. I wish to bring you to the marketplace of Claw Lake this week. What do you say about that? Maybe I can get there. Just when you'd like to get me there, I'll tell you in time. Probably tomorrow. Okay, but please tell me tomorrow. Bye-bye. Good night and bye-bye, Theodore said and cut the call. Lucia felt like fool once again when she didn't remember the thing that Theodore was working under his father's service. So they indeed had his phone number, even written down. Theodore didn't yet think throughout the whole picture. But what if Evie had brought everything up they might have needed this week? Theodore then took a look at the fridge and decided to ask from his mother if it is okay that he will be this time the one to be in the Claw Lakes marketplace. Evie was surprised by this turn of events. The biggest point of worry for her was that Theodore gets lost in the big marketplace. But Theodore reassured her that he has help with him there. Oh really? Who? Are you sure you can? I am sure that I can trust her. Rest here for a while now, and I will take care of something new this time. Theodore interrupted her mother's burst of worries. And so Elvira's gesture started to move from more and more pleased looking. She had heard the same song when Theodore started to become an active hunter and when he moved under Roderick's service. Evie had formed a certain trust to it all, so she didn't protest anymore. The thing was that during its last minutes so that Travers decided to get under blankets and turn the lights off. Evie suddenly remembered that something might have been off. Did he say trust her? Who is he talking about? To be continued.